instructors certifications in many specialties. Most recently, Kristie was appointed by Governor George Stern to be on the Advisory Council on Student Safety and Well-Being. Kristie graduated with University of Mount Olive with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and her master's in criminal justice from East Carolina. In her free time, she and her husband travel with their daughters as they participate in school-based athletics, as well as travel tennis and softball teams. So she is well-rounded with the youth, and she's going to tell us some things that we need to listen closely, take in, and don't forget. Let's welcome Miss Kristie.
Good morning, thank you for having me. If you'll give me just 1 second.
I'll check.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So first of all, thank you for the invitation to have me come and speak. And also, I have the wonderful opportunity of sharing office space with Mr. Jeffrey Ward, so that is my connection. I do love that gentleman. There he is. And I have my oldest daughter with me, accompanying me today, and my youngest daughter is on the softball field. So I am the Chief Court Counselor for Wayne, Lenoir, and Greene Counties. And so what that is, that's a fancy title for the big boss over juvenile probation. So we're going to kind of just keep this a little informal until they can pull my PowerPoint up. Can kids get charged with crimes? Yes. Jeopardy knowledge. What is the minimum age that somebody can be charged with a crime? What did you say? What did you say? 18. Minimum age. I hear 13. What would you say? What, huh?
6.
6. Okay. Anybody else?
10.
10. Okay. So Jeopardy knowledge is the minimum age that a juvenile can be charged with a crime is age 10 in North Carolina. However, there is a little loophole. If you were to have an 8 or 9-year-old who, Lord forbid, had a atrocious crime, such as murder or something like that, they could be charged. But minimally, the age in North Carolina to charge a juvenile is age 10. Do we want to be charging 10-year-old babies with crimes? No, but that is the minimum age. Maximum age to charge a juvenile in North Carolina is 17, because what happens when we turn 18 in North Carolina? You're now considered an adult. I was going to check and see how they were going back here.
What is the youngest you have seen?
Great. The youngest I have ever seen was an 8-year-old. So when I first started this career, the minimum age at the time was 6 years old, which is way too young. And we, what they called, raised the floor in 2020 to 10 years old. So while they're still working on our information, the number one offense here in Wayne County for juveniles is, would anybody like to guess? Drug? Theft? Littering? Vandalism. The number one crime, actually across the state, because we're seeing a trend of it, but here in Wayne County, is breaking and entering into motor vehicles. So please lock your car doors. What we are seeing, our kids are going around and and seeing if cars are locked or unlocked and going into vehicles at nighttime and stealing change, loose dollars that you may have, and then surprisingly, how many people are keeping their own personal weapons in the glove box or the console, and they're not locking their car door, so the juveniles come in and steal that, and now we have firearms that are out on the streets. So our number one crime that we have right now is breaking and entering into motor vehicles, which could so be easily prevented if people would just lock their car doors. Oh, it's coming up now. Thank you. Thank you so much. So my name is Kristie Howell. I'm Chief Court Counselor, and we're going to be talking about the youth and the law. If you could go to the next slide. Okay. So quickly, I work for the Department of Juvenile Justice. It's a state agency. Our mission statements are always important. Most churches have mission statements. Most businesses have mission statements. We have a mission statement that lets you know what your goal is and what you're aiming to work towards. Our mission statement is that the North Carolina Division of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention is committed to the reduction and prevention of juvenile delinquency by effectively intervening, educating, and treating at-risk and justice-involved youth, and strengthening the families and enhancing public safety. So a lot of my job is making sure, number one, the community is safe. Number two, trying to do intervention, putting out information so folks will understand what the law is, and then what I like to say is providing tools to those children who are making not so good decisions, so hopefully they can get onto the right path. The next slide, please. So this, I'm a visual person, so this is just a visual. We were talking about this earlier, if you can see this. The minimum age that typically we accept charges on a juvenile is age 10, and you'll see ages 10 through 15, all offenses, which says ages 8 and 9, only 8 and 9-year-olds can be charged with offense if they are charged with a class A through G offense, and that would be a very violent or atrocious offense that we do not want to occur. So minimum age typically is age 10 to 15. And then this is where my job gets a little confusing. Once you turn 16, what happens to most kids when they turn 16? They get to do what? Drive. And what happens to your car insurance, parents, when you get a 16-year-old? It goes up. So the one thing about juveniles is juveniles are confidential. Juvenile records are confidential. You can come to my office and you can ask me about Mary Jane, and I cannot tell you anything about Mary Jane because juvenile records are confidential. Even as we get juveniles who are older who want to go into the military, we have, the Air Force Base. If they want to go to the military and we have recruiters come to our office asking about juvenile records, they're confidential. So if you have a 16-year-old who gets in trouble driving, does the insurance company still want to know? Yes, so this is where it got tricky. If a 16 or 17-year-old gets charged with a Chapter 20 offense, you're like, Kristie, what is a Chapter 20 offense? Chapter 20 is going to be anything driving. They will be charged as an adult because our adult record is confidential. No, so that way the insurance company still can know what's going on. So 16 and 17-year-olds can be charged as an adult if it's for a Chapter 20 driving offense. If it's not a driving offense, they're still going to be charged as a juvenile. So that's where on the front end I have to be able to know the difference. Is this a crime or is this a driving crime? All juvenile matters can start in juvenile court, but if it's a very serious offense, then it is transferred to the adult system. A lot of people have the misconception that nothing happens to juveniles because they're a juvenile, and that's not the case. We do want to do more intervention and prevention because everybody, and I'm a Christian and I'm so happy to be in this space, but we were all created for a purpose and we were all created in His image and in His likeness. So just because one kid makes a bad decision, does that mean that we need to throw them away? Absolutely not. That means they need some restoration and some building up. And I feel like that's where I was put in this place for this specific reason, to help these families and these kids who are making poor decisions to try to get them back on the right path. So this is just some kind of Jeopardy knowledge. It goes in to say that minimum age is 10 for a juvenile to get fingerprinted. How old are you, sweetheart? You are 9. You can stand right here beside me. How old are you? You're 9. How old are you? You're 10? Come here real quick. Can you imagine this beautiful baby being charged for a crime? It's the law, but Miss Kristie's going to try to prevent that if you're here in Goldsboro. Thank you. So it goes into talking about if a minor under the age of 18 were to get stopped for a crime, if they are 16 years age and younger, their parent has to be present. So Lord forbid we mess up, but none of us are perfect, and that's why we have grace and mercy. But if a kid gets in trouble and they're under the age of 16, they cannot answer questions to law enforcement unless their parent is present. 16 and 17-year-olds can say, yeah, I want to talk, I don't need nobody with me. So Kristie's advice is if you're 18 and under, you get in trouble, don't talk until your mama or your daddy or your grandma or your grandpa or somebody gets there with you. Again, 15 and under, your parent has to be with you. 16 and 17-year-olds can talk, but you really shouldn't. Okay, next slide. So what is it that we do when juveniles commit crimes in North Carolina? This is what we do. We provide court-ordered supervision. We mirror adult probation, except for we are providing court services to at-risk youth or youth who have been in trouble. So we provide protective supervision, probation, commitment, and post-release. We provide consultations if parents are having issues with their children. We do provide consultations to try to give them resources and tools to prevent their child from continuing to go down that negative path. So these are some of the services that we provide. If you could go to the next slide, please. So how does juvenile justice work? So I'm just going to kind of walk you through and summarize this. A juvenile allegedly commits a crime. What crime do we want to just go with? Yes, ma'am.
Driving and crashing into somebody.
Well, let's go with something, not a driving offense. How old are you? You're 10. You're 10 as well. What? Give me
Breaking into someone's house.
Ooh, okay. Don't do that. Breaking into someone's house, that is a felony offense. So let's pretend, what is your name? Elise, that's beautiful. Let's pretend that Elise, we are pretending here, that Elise breaks into someone's house. That's bad. That is a felony offense. And so what happens is law enforcement is going to charge Elise. Now, I hope you can follow me because sometimes I can be a rabbit here. Citizens, if you are a victim of a crime by a juvenile, you can come to my office and file charges. However, if it is a felony offense, law enforcement has to do that because they have to do an investigation. So, pretending that Elise breaks into a house, that is a felony offense. So law enforcement would come to my office and bring me charges on Elise. I look at it, I make sure that the charges are correct, that it's the right statute, it's all the correct information. And then we mail a letter to Elise and her family to come and meet with us. And then at that point, we have what's called an intake. I'm at the point now within 2 to 4 weeks, the court counselor must decide. I have 3 options. My first option is let's pretend that the offense is not breaking and entering. Let's pretend that Elise was at the wrong place at the wrong time and just made a really stupid decision. She does good at home, she does good at school, she's involved in her church, she makes good grades. Her parents say, she's a good girl, I'm not sure what happened on this day. If that is the case that happens, I have the option of closing it and giving Elise a really firm talking to and telling her not to get in trouble ever again. That's called closing it. My second option is I could divert Elise. I could say, Elise, I think you have a lot of potential. I see good in you. I'm going to give you A, B, C, D, E things to do. Stay out of trouble. Write me an apology letter to give this family. I might give her some community service. I can give her certain things to do and put her on a diversion contract for 6 months. And during that 6 months, if Elise does good, at the end of that 6 months, I'm going to file her away. However, if during that 6 months Elise still gets in trouble, guess what happens? I'm going to send it on to court. But then my third option, and unfortunately, if Elise has been charged with a felony, more than likely she would be approved for court. A difference between juvenile and adults in North Carolina is juveniles are required to have attorneys, whereas adults could represent themselves. Juveniles must have attorneys. Most of the time they're given court-appointed attorneys unless their family would like to hire their own attorney. So that's how we process juvenile charges, and we make our decisions, and we do all the paperwork. While we are meeting with a family, if you'll go to the next slide, please. Again, this kind of is another walkthrough about we receive it. We do lots and lots of assessments. So I don't know Elise, and I don't know Elise's background. Juvenile justice is not allowed to participate in investigations, so that's why we have to rely on the information that law enforcement gives us. So we're going to do a lot of assessments and asking Elise about how does she do at home? How does she do at school? What kind of friends do you hang out with? Are you a gang member? Are you wearing a lot of red? Or are you wearing a lot of blue? You know, are you polite? Are you cordial? Do you have an attitude? You know, asking the parents, tell me what kind of things Elise is involved in. And we have to get a lot of information to make these assessments to determine how we're going to move forward in our cases. If you go to the next slide, please. We use a lot of evidence-based assessments. Every juvenile who comes into my office that is 12 years and older, we do a short screen mental health assessment on them. We have seen, especially since COVID, that there's been an increase in mental health issues with our youth. I don't know if it's just the isolation while they were home or what, but we have seen an increase in mental health. So if your children go to Goldsboro Pediatrics or Princeton Pediatrics or LaGrange Pediatrics, I have noticed when you first go for your physical, they give you one of those sheets on a clipboard and ask you certain questions about how you're feeling. Does anybody know what I'm talking about from the pediatrics? We do the same thing. It's just a short screener mental health. It's kind of doing a check-in with these kids. How are you feeling? Have you thought about hurting yourself? Unfortunately, there are quite a bit of kids who have committed self-harm to themselves. Either one, they don't know how to ask for help, or their cries have gone unheard. So we do a short screen mental health. We also do strength-based assessments. If you'll go to the next screen, please. So this is something new that we've started doing. What I've seen a shift in our department, which I am thankful for. A lot of times when the kids come into our office, all the department and the parents wanted to harp on was the negative. You're here because you got in trouble. You get suspended from school. You're making bad grades. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. But we need to speak life into these children, and they need to hear positives. So I'm thankful that we have gone to more of a strength base, because everybody has a strength. You might not have determined what your strength is, but everybody has something that they're good at. So let's find it and let's pull that strength out and let's build upon it. So we start asking about school. What is your favorite subject in school? Reading. Her favorite subject's reading. That's not my favorite subject. So that means she's going to be really good at reading something and pulling something out and doing something great with reading. What is your favorite subject? Math. Girlfriend. That is my least favorite. This girl's going to take numbers, and she's going to take data, and she's going to be a world changer with numbers. What is your favorite subject? Science. Right here. This could be a future scientist right here, or a chemist making big changes for the world. What's your favorite subject? P. Art. Recess. Whatever your strength is, God can use it. We just got to tap into those resources, because if you think about it, again, I'm kind of getting off track here. If these children that we are seeing in our office do not come from a loving and supportive family and extended family who's going to stand in the gap for them, then we've got to be able to pour life into them and speak blessings over them, because all they hear is negative. That was not a good choice. You're not doing this. You're not doing negative, negative, negative. So when you come in our office, I'm going to try to pull out our positives and let's build upon it. School, you know, are you aggressive? Do you have an anger temper? Like, what's going on? You know, your friends. If Johnny does this and you know that's not right, are you going to follow Johnny? Or are you going to be like, hey, Johnny, that's not a good idea? Are you a leader or are you a follower? We're going to ask about physical health. You know, is there enough food in the home? Are they getting the medical needs that they have, basic needs, their family, attitude? What do you do with your free time? What skills? Is anybody in here really good at, like, computer games? Yes. Is anybody in here really good at drawing? These are skills that we can take it and build upon. So these are some of the assessments that we do. If you'll go to the next screen, please. So, unfortunately, there are some quite serious crimes that juveniles do commit. These are what we call non-divertible crimes. These are crimes, if I receive any of these offenses in my office, they're automatically approved for court. I don't have an option of diverting these or closing these. Murder, first degree, second degree rape, first, second degree sexual offense, arson, felony violation, Article 5, Chapter 90, that's fancy words for drug offenses. First degree burglary, crimes against nature, and any felony with willful infliction of serious bodily injury. If I get any of these offenses, I have to approve them for court. And if you're sitting here saying, Miss Kristie, do kids really commit these offenses? They do, unfortunately. And what we want to do is try to prevent that. Okay, the next slide. I know this is kind of small, but this is public information on our website, but this is a trend over the numbers for just Wayne County over the last 5 years. And if you can't see it, for the year 2024, I received 276 charges on kids for the year 2024 just in Wayne County. Out of that 276, I was able to divert 17 of those. 64 of those kids were placed on some type of supervision. 32 of those kids, unfortunately, I had to lock up, and we'll talk about that in a second. A lot of people refer to it as juvie. We have a juvenile detention center. There's criteria for children to be detained, but there is a place, but there's a process for that. Where it says YDC commitments, I had 5. That means juvenile prison. And then on the last slide, 9 that were transferred to adult court. So that means they were a juvenile but committed a very serious offense. So they were transferred to the adult system. So those are just some numbers for here in Wayne County over the last few years. If you'll go to the next slide. All right. So talking about secure custody, a lot of times individuals will call our office and be like, you need to send this kid away. Well, it's not quite that simple. We are not a placement agency, and we are not the parents. We are an agency to provide you with resources and tools to help you, but we are not here to parent your children, and we are not here to place your children. However, if a juvenile commits a crime in North Carolina that is a felony offense, involves a weapon, is a threat to the public safety, and all depending on what the offense is, I have the ability to lock them up. Our closest detention center is in Greenville, North Carolina. We do not have one here in Goldsboro. The closest one is in Greenville, but again, it's criteria. For my friends up here, what do you think the minimum age is that Miss Kristie could lock somebody up? 10. Try not to lock anybody up at the age of 10. The unofficial rule is 12, but the law states that I could lock somebody up at the age of 10, but I really try to steer clear of that. Some more jeopardy knowledge. Average age of what we see in our office is age 14. Do I have any 14-year-olds in here? That's about the average age. If I could get the next slide. So we partner up with a lot of community resources. Easter Seals is one of our big resources. They have what's called mobile crisis. That phone number is listed beside them. If a parent is ever experiencing extreme behavioral health or mental health issues with their child, that phone number, they will come to your house right then and there and help diffuse and de-escalate that situation. So that's a great resource. Here in Wayne County, we have what's called Teen Court. Huge fan of Teen Court. Also restorative justice. That's a lot for your first-time offenders, something a minor offense. It doesn't go on your record. Absolutely love Teen Court. We have what's called Structure Day. Kids get suspended from school. They're suspended from school. Where are they at? At home, probably unsupervised because parents are working, which means idleness is a devil's workshop, right? So we have what's called Structure Day. So if a kid gets suspended from school, we can refer them to a structured program where they can work on their makeup schoolwork during that suspension so they are not at home by themselves. We have a lot of community intervention programs and a lot of mental health agencies that we work with, because what we are seeing is that a lot of these youth who are committing crimes also have some type of mental health issue going on that needs to be addressed. And most importantly, most of these kids, they just need some love. They need somebody to speak life into them. But what I want them to know is just because they make a bad decision doesn't destine them for a life of negativity. They can turn it around. There are people in place to help them. We are here to be a help. But they gotta also want to help themselves. You can't keep making the wrong decisions over and over and over and over and over. At some point, it's gotta click, and you gotta start making right decisions. If not, there are consequences for our behavior. Just like if we don't get things right and ask God for forgiveness of our sins, there's consequences. So same thing applies with juvenile law. Really quick, and I think I'm about over my time. Does anybody have any questions for me? And this is just kind of a surface level of, yes, kids can get in trouble. Minimum age is 10. Yes, kids can get locked up. But does that define them? It does not. Yes, sir. Yes, is there a hand over here?
What now?
Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Define the name juvenile justice. What is the delinquency prevention?
So delinquency is committing crimes. So the prevention piece is every county in the state of North Carolina gets a pot of money. And it's called Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. And that's where our agencies come to a table and we talk about what programs does Goldsboro, North Carolina need to try to prevent Elisa from getting in trouble. What can we put in place to try to provide structured, positive resources so these kids don't go towards the gangs? What can we do if we do have kids in gangs to try to pull them out? So what that is the delinquency prevention part is I need agencies, I need churches, I need community people to step up and say, what can I do to help? Can I be a mentor? Can our church start an after-school program or outreach program? A safe place for kids to be able to come and hang out. That's what the delinquency prevention part is.
So with that being said, what is the, I guess within Wayne County, what is the percentage of that that's taking place right now?
It could be better. I don't want to give you a percentage, especially in the Lord's house, but it needs to be better.
So are you actively looking for?
Always looking. And I can give you my card. I can give you Mr. Jeffrey can give you my card so you can be able to reach me. We just need people to step up to the plate and love on these children of Wayne County. Let them know that they're loved, that they're important, and you know their situation does not have to define them.
Now, I understand that you're in Wayne County, but is this a statewide?
Absolutely, yes, sir. I'm over Wayne, Lenoir, and Greene. I kind of joke that Goldsboro and Kinston try to take turns showing out. But yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all for the opportunity to speak.
One more question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between juvenile detention and juvenile prison?
Thank you. Juvenile detention is short term. It's equivalent to like jail. If kids commit a serious offense, they can go to juvenile detention until we can go to court and handle the case. Juvenile prison is they have committed either a very atrocious offense or they just continue to cycle through the chart of committing crimes and just aren't getting it, and they can go to juvenile prison for a minimum of 6 months up until their 21st birthday, all depending on what the charge is. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have two questions.
Sure.
The first one, when you first began this slide, you talked about commitment. I know, juvenile.
Yes, ma'am.
But a lesser mild, when you say commitment, are you talking about in a mental health?
No, ma'am. Commitment. So juvenile justice uses a completely different language than the adult system. When I say commitment, I'm talking about juvenile prison. Now, we do deal with a lot of juveniles who have mental health and need mental health involuntary commitment, but when I'm saying commitment, I'm referring to juvenile prison. Yes, ma'am.
Another question I have now, in order for a child to get to you, it's only because law enforcement has brought them to you.
Not necessarily. Parents can come to our office if they're having issues with their child and they're wanting us to provide consultation services. If you are a victim of a crime and you know that Johnny next door is the one who was throwing rocks at your car, you can come to my office and file charges on Johnny. But if it's a serious offense, it's law enforcement bringing it to my office. But citizens are allowed to come to our office. It's just the citizens have got to have all the information. And a lot of times, you might not have Johnny's date of birth who lives beside you, so law enforcement still has to get involved to do an investigation report. Yes, ma'am, in the back. Yes, ma'am. So that kind of falls more into like the DSS world. But yes, ma'am, a parent is responsible for their child until they turn 18 years of age, and that means food, clothing, shelter, medication. And if the parent is not making sure their child is getting the proper medication, then that could be neglect, because it's that parent's responsibility to provide the medication for their child. If a parent is the one who keeps provoking the child, and unfortunately that can happen as well, that's where we try to put resources and tools in place, and we try to put in-home programs in the home, where like a therapist would go in the home and work with the juvenile and the parent. And we just try to provide them tools and resources. But if it gets to the point that we realize, this is getting way out of hand, we may, start talking about seeing if that child can go stay somewhere else. But again, we don't have that authority. It's all of us coming around at the table to have conversations on what's in the best interest of that child. Yes, ma'am.
Is this process the same for kids who have IEPs or 504 or behavior plans? Is there a difference or is it different?
So that at schools, we know that they have a plan. If those students who have some type of behavioral or learning disability get in trouble, we take that into consideration if they get charged, because there may have been an external factor going on with them at school or at home for them to have gotten in trouble. So that's just something that we take into consideration. It's not a guarantee you're going to get off the hook, but we will take that into consideration if someone with a disability were to get charged. It's a very case-by-case scenario. It is not a cookie cutter for juvenile justice. It is an individualized person-by-person case. Yes, ma'am.
Question, I know that a lot of young people have been arrested either for a misdemeanor or felony, and maybe once drugs or whatever, and it's on their record. So what can a young person do to get that record expunged?
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that they can pursue?
So if they are under the age of 18, is confidential. It does not go on the record. Juvenile records are sealed and confidential. Now, if somebody over the age of 18 gets in trouble and it does go on the record, there is a process about getting it expunged. But I could not walk you through that because I just live in the juvenile world. So there is a process, but I don't know what that process is. But yes, ma'am, that does happen. Yes, ma'am, but there is a process called expungement that they could go through, but I can't walk you through it because the juvenile records are sealed. So thankfully, if we mess up as a kid, it stays in our system sealed. Because of that, you don't want to hold it against them when they turn 18 or 19 and they're applying for a job or wanting to go to college. So that's why juvenile records are sealed and confidential. Plus, statistics show our brain hasn't fully developed until we are about 25. So we also have to try to keep that, in perspective as well. Any other questions? Yes. If it's a 12-year-old who has contemplated or experienced some suicide, we're going to get mental health services involved, and more than likely that will end up called a mobile crisis with Easter seals, and that child's going to need some intensive mental health services, if not hospitalization, to determine what's going on to get them back stable to help them so that doesn't occur. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
What's suicide?
What is suicide? Suicide is when you take your life. And we all were created for a purpose, and we have a life to live, and we should not ever want to contemplate taking our life because you were created to do wonderful and marvelous things. I'm going to end on this note. Another thing that we're seeing a huge increase of is vapes. Kids, don't ever smoke anything, buy any vapes. You don't know what's in it. They're not good for you. They're not good for your lungs, and they're really starting to try to come up with some laws to get stricter on that. But I've gone over my time, but thank you all so much for having me, and I'll leave my information if somebody wants to get a